Hello students, welcome back to Joshua Planet. In this session, we will be discussing one more important concept, that is a repeated question in your examination. Again, if you find out your 2-3 preparatory papers, you will find out this question in all the papers. So this is a question that is repeated all the time. So what is the question? It is nothing but the factors on which resistance of a conductor depends upon. So this is from the chapter electricity. So in order to answer this question, first you should know what do you mean by resistance. So what do you mean by resistance? Resistance is nothing but the obstruction created for the flow of electrons. So what do you exactly mean by the obstruction created for the flow of electrons? I will just explain it with a simple example. So now imagine this is a conductor. So what do you mean by a conductor? A conductor is nothing but wire or something that is carrying current in that. So what do you mean by current? Current is nothing but flow of electrons. So now in this conductor you can see that electrons are flowing in any direction, right? So when do you say that this is a good conductor? Whenever the electrons are flowing without any obstruction, without any stop or anything that is avoiding, that is not allowing the electrons to flow. So electrons are easily flowing like the river. In the river the water flows, right? So like the water flows in the river, electrons are easily flowing, then it is called as a good conductor. So when will I call it as a resistor? So resistor is something like the same water in the river is flowing, but imagine that there are a lot of stones in between. Can the water go in the same speed? No, there are so many rocks there, so it will hit, and the amount of water that is reaching on the other side will vary. It will not be in the same speed. So again there is an obstruction. So whenever there is an obstruction in the flow of electrons, then you will call it as a resistor. That obstruction to the flow of electron is called as resistance. So now again think that the same river water is flowing, and you have constructed a dam and completely closed off. The electrons are not allowed to flow to the other side at all. So then what do you call it as? You will call it as a insulator, where the current will not flow at all or very less current will flow. Right? So now you understood what is resistance. Resistance is nothing but the obstruction to the flow of electrons. What makes the flow of electrons not to flow? That is called as resistance. So now if at all I have a conductor here, how will I know whether it is a good conductor or bad conductor? On what factors does this resistance of a conductor depend on? So you have to answer this question like this. Resistance of a conductor depends on. So it is not only for this question. Any question asked in the examination, please start with what is asked. Just don't directly write off saying number 1 length of the conductor, number 2 something. No, don't write it like that. Start with a proper sentence. Whatever is asked, the same thing, start with a proper sentence. So here they have asked factors on which the resistance of a conductor depends upon. So you are starting the answer like this. The resistance of a conductor depends upon, number 1, length of a conductor. See again, the resistance will be directly proportional to length of the conductor, in the sense the resistance will increase if the length is increased. It means, what do you mean by resistance is increasing? Resistance is increasing in the sense the electrons are not allowed to flow, because longer it is, longer the way they have to go. The more longer the conductor is, then the resistance will be more. The flow of electrons will be less. Clear? So length of a conductor. It is also dependent on the area of cross section. That is inversely proportional to the area of cross section. What do you mean by area of cross section? Now I took this as a conductor. When I cut like this and take the area, okay, it means indirectly I can say the thickness. More thicker the conductor, it means less resistance offered, because there is a lot of space. In that space the electrons can easily flow. So bigger the cross sectional area, lesser the resistance. That is why it is inversely proportional. So this is the equation that represents R is directly proportional to L by A. That is, resistance is directly proportional to length and inversely proportional to area of cross section. Again, when you take the proportionality, you have to insert a constant that constant is called as rho here. So what is this constant called as? What is this constant called as? It is called as resistivity. Rho is nothing but resistivity of a material. So now you got to know there are two factors on which resistance will depend on, that is length and area of cross section. And the third thing what this resistance will depend upon will be nature of its material. With what is the material made up of? Is it made up of iron? Is it made up of copper? Is it made up of plastic? So that is also very the resistance will be dependent on. So if you are making the conductor with a good conductor, then the flow of electrons will be easy. When you are making with something like plastic, what this marker is made up of, then the flow of electrons will be too less or no flow at all. So it also depends on the nature of its material. And again, temperature also. When the temperature is increased, then what will happen? The electrons will gain energy and therefore they can move in a faster rate. So more the temperature, lesser the resistance. Similarly, resistivity of the material. Resistivity is nothing but again the same thing, nature and temperature put together. Resistivity is nothing but the strength of that particular material in order to obstruct the flow of electrons. So these are the 5 points that you will have to remember, and if at all they ask for 2 marks in the examination, you will have to write 4 points. If they ask for 1 mark, again you have to write 2 points. Or if they have mentioned, state any 2 factors on which resistance of the conductor depends on, then you have to write only 2 points, and the 2 points should be length of the conductor and area of its cross section, and you can represent it with this equation.